Hello and welcome back to the next episode of the Shark Source podcast. I'm your host, Danny Parsons. I'm joined again with Shaedon. We've got a lot to discuss. This is probably one of my favorite episodes of the season to do because we are doing our full NHL predictions and we also have a ton of news to talk about. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to talk first about the Justin Falk trade to St. Louis, how that affects them. We'll talk about the Sharks trading Antoine Bibeau. I'm very upset about that. We'll get more into that later. Then we'll talk about the RFA signings, Line, Point, Marner, and Rantanen, who's not signed yet. We'll talk about what we think is going to happen there. And then finally, we'll do our full predictions. So that's all coming up. We're going to start with the Justin Falk trade. So I have the trade right here. The Blues acquired Justin Falk with 14% salary retained and a 2020 fifth-round pick. And the Hurricanes acquire Joel Edmondson, Dominic Bach, and a 2021 seventh. So, Shaedon, what are your thoughts on the deal?
First, I did think St. Louis stole the trade. But, after looking at it, Falk is a great defenseman, don't get me wrong, but, he's not great on the defensive side. He's going to put up 40, 50, maybe even 60 points in St. Louis, but, he wasn't just a fit in Carolina anymore. And, for me, Dominic Bach is going to be a top 6 player in the NHL. Carolina needs more forward prospects. I think he's going to be great for them. A guy like Joel Edmondson will be good for Carolina as well, as if they need another defenseman. But, they really need someone that's, more defensive and more physical since they have all these offensive defensemen. And, the Blues locked up Falk, but, the question that comes to me is what's going to happen with Pietrangelo because he's going to be a free agent this upcoming year, and he's getting the same cap as Pietrangelo. So, it's a weird trade. I didn't expect St. Louis. I expected a team like Winnipeg because their blue line is garbage, and there's rumors that Buffett might retire. So it's a trade I didn't expect, not to St. Louis, and I think it's even now.
Yeah, I was very surprised as well. And, when you look at Falk, he has a reputation of being a very elite defenseman. But last year, he only had 35 points in 82 games. 35. Yeah, I said 35, right? Yeah, 35, which you'd think it'd be a lot higher. And you definitely would think it would be a lot higher if he just got this huge extension from the Blues, $6.5 million per year through 2027, a 7-year deal. I mean, that's a lot of money for someone who had 35 points last year and who is not the best defensive defenseman. So I was surprised by it. I don't think the guys they gave up were that great. Apparently, Bach is supposed to be a good prospect, but I still think the Blues got the better part of the deal. But Carolina, they did shed, I believe, some cap in this deal. I'm trying to pull up how much they shed. About $1 million less in cap space. But other than that, I don't really see. I think Carolina did not get as much as they should have.
Well, I expected, like you said, I didn't think it was a lot at first. I thought they could have at least got another forward because I know that they really need help on the forwards. And like you said, Bach, you didn't think would be a great prospect or as highly talented as he really is right now. For Carolina, I don't think this affects them too much. You're losing Falk, but they still have guys like Jake Bean and Hayden Fleury who are going to be your 7th and 8th defenseman if they didn't trade Falk, which would be absurd. So, I don't think it's a big loss for Carolina. Huge ask for St. Louis, of course. But like I said, I do think that we have to watch something up for Pietrangelo because he's a UFA coming up and he's another right-hand defenseman. So I'm not sure if this is for insurance or something else, but I feel like something bigger might be planned. Not right now, but maybe in the near future.
Yeah, for sure. So I think we'll move on from this one uh, trade, but we'll see how it turns out in this upcoming season, and we'll talk more about both the Blues and the Hurricanes in our prediction section. So we're now going to talk about what most people view as a very minor trade, what I view as just another sign that Sharks management is incompetent. And a lot of people would say, "What? You made the semifinals last year. How are you incompetent?" It's the little things that's the difference between a cup contender and a pretender, like the Sharks now seem to be. So we trade Antoine Bibeau to the Colorado Avalanche for Nicholas Milotic. I think I'm saying his name right, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Bibeau was our third string goalie. He was our AHL backup last year, but because Joseph Cornash is only 21, we want him to get the majority of starts, so he was not going to be a backup for the Sharks this year. It was really between Aaron Dell and Antoine Bibeau. And Aaron Dell, who was just terrible last season, it now seems like he's going to be our backup, which is going to lead to another season of Jones being just overworked like he was last year and then having a terrible playoffs. I don't really know much about Nicholas Milotic. Do you know anything about him?
Oh, I know. I'm pretty sure he's a defenseman.
Yes.
Yeah,
And here
but
I've
I
got
think Colorado made a trade. I think I read somewhere where they only had 3 goalies on the contract, so they wanted to get Bibeau as their fourth stringer. I'm guessing it's a minor trade, but I would see a lot of your pre-math of it.
who is the Avalanche backup right now?
I think it's some French goalie. I'm
Let's
pretty
see.
sure.
I'm on their page right now.
Pavel
Pavel
Francois,
French,
or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah, Pavel Francois, something from the Czech Republic. I think Bibeau has a good chance of being their backup goalie. He should have been in the NHL last season, but it's really unfortunate for the Sharks. Uh, anyway, but nothing we can do about it now. Just have to hope that we do have another prospect goalie, Andrew Shortridge, who played at Quinnipiac University last year, and I'm hoping because he's older than Cornash that the Sharks will give him a chance to be the backup when Dell inevitably is terrible, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. All right, I get we'll now move on from that to the RFA signings. There were a whole bunch of signings. Where do you even want to start? We've got the Kachuk deal, we've got Patrick Laine, we've got Marner. We'll talk about all of them, but where do you want to start?
Let's just start where things set off with Marner. He got close to 11 million on, I believe, a 6-year deal, which, for Marner, sorry, no, he got, close to 11 million, sorry. Yeah, so he got close to 11 million on a 6-year deal. He was pushing for more than Matthews' money. I don't think it should have taken this long to sign a guy like Marner. If he wanted 12 mil, it shouldn't really take 3 months to settle that by. Good deal for Marner. The Leafs, though, this is probably their best year to win it because they have the bars locked up. Matthews, Riley, Marner. They just traded for Tyson Berry, and this is the year to win because next year they don't have much cap, and that's going to be a problem, and they're going to need to start trading guys out soon. So if the Leafs think they're a cup contender, this is the year to do it because this is probably the deepest your team will get. So, I know Marner is pushing for more money. He just didn't get enough, in my opinion. I think Marner is an outstanding player, and I do think the Leafs held out for too long.
Yeah, I have a sort of philosophy about these bridge deal versus long-term deal. And it seems that long-term deal with a big for sure star like Marner almost always benefits the team. And the example would be Johnny Gaudreau. I remember he really did not want a bridge deal, and the Flames wanted to give him a bridge deal. And finally, they got to a deal, and Gaudreau thought he got a pretty good deal. He got slightly under $7 million per year over 6 years, I believe. And now he's one of the most underpaid players in the league. I mean, Johnny Gaudreau is a top 3 American forward in the entire league, and he is one of the most underpaid players in the league. So this deal could end up working out for the Leafs if the cap goes way up from new revenues and players start making a lot more money. And it also could not be a steal for the Leafs if he just took way more than, what was expected. I sort of disagree on the fact that the Leafs are cup contenders this year. We hear that thrown around a lot, but I really don't think they're that much better than last year. Now, Tyson Barrie, that's huge, but he's an unrestricted free agent next year. I don't think they can possibly afford to sign him. They locked up a lot of their young players with Janssen too and Kapanen, so I thought those were good deals. They pretty much signed everyone they had to sign, but I have no idea how. I still don't think they're deep enough to win the cup. They have some defensive prospects like Liljegren, who's coming up. So I think they still have to wait a bit more before their cup window really opens.
Well, you know, yeah, I kind of agree there. Maybe they are a bit overhyped, but just with what their cap situation is looking like, I think this is probably still their best year to win it.
Yeah, cap wise, it's gonna get worse for them. I agree, but I just don't think they have the talent to win it this year. So we will see with the Leafs there. And now here's where it gets interesting, because after this deal, people thought this deal would be setting the market, and this deal would be the one that all the other RFAs follow. So I'm on Cap Friendly. We're not going to go in chronological order for the deals because the next deal was Jared Spurgeon, and I don't want to talk about that yet because we're sort of more focused on the younger players' deals. So after the Marner deal, we had 3 bridge deals that we're going to go over. So first, Charlie McAvoy, 3 years, under $5 million with the Bruins, 4.9 per. What do you think of that deal?
Great deal. Still a young defenseman. He's going to be a great elite defenseman in his prime. And, stable contract for Bruins. And it seems like a lot of their players are locked up under great contracts. Marchand, Bergeron, and David Pastrnak. You're locking up your young core. Well, not your young core, but your core, which is great to see. And, that's a plus for season every year as a contender. They make smart moves, and they're not. I don't think they're close to the cap, so which is good for them, and they can add players to the deadline. So, good for Boston.
So here's the question. So because it's a short-term deal, he'll be 24, I believe, when the contract's up. So how much do you? So when that contract is up, he's going to get a lot more money. If he signs a long-term deal with them, which I think he will after this one's up, he's going to get a lot more money than if he signed a long-term deal now. So here's just a hypothetical. If he had signed, let's say, a 7-year contract with the Bruins this year, how much money would he have made, per year?
I think, honestly, I say nowhere above 7. I think $6 million would be his range. He's showing flashes of great talent. And, when you're signing prospects like Arizona did a killer, I think, in the past month or so, teams sign up their young guys for what they're going to do in the future, not now. And that's what Boston would have done. But, like you said, his next contract, he's going to get a hefty payday, and I could see him go to the 8-9 millions for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's what teams have to, grapple with. Should we pay our player now or delay it, but then potentially cost us down the road? So we're going to move on from Besser, another huge contract, not huge in size, but huge in implication. Brock Besser, 3 years, under 6 million, 5875. 5875. What are your thoughts on this deal, Per?
I think that 3 years is the perfect length. And let me explain why. So I'm on cap premium right now. The Canucks have the second highest cap problem, but the thing is, in 3 years, guys like Russell, Beagle, Alex Edler, Louis Erickson, all these bad contracts come out in 3 years. So Besser, of course, can get a big pay raise, but they don't have to worry about the cap. They'll be able to re-sign guys like Quinn Hughes and Thatcher Demko and Horvat because they'll have the cap. So I think that's why Besser they decided on the 3 years because that's when most of their bad contracts get off. And this late into the off season when it was signed, you just knew it was going to be a long-term deal. So I think it's perfect for the player and perfect for the team.
Yeah, I did not know that, so that's a great way of looking at it. If all those deals are expiring, then it makes sense for both to have a bridge deal. So I think that's a great contract for both sides in this case. And of course, hopefully Besser will get back. He has the concussion with on the Chris Tierney hit. So hopefully for the Canucks, he'll be back soon. Is there any update on that?
Pardon?
Has there been any update on the Besser injury?
No, not yet. Still in protocol.
All right. So now we'll move on to the next, large RFA contract. Matthew Tkachuk. All right. Sorry, no. Braden Point. We'll get to Tkachuk after. Braden Point. This probably is the biggest steal of them all, just average-wise. We've got 3 years, $6.75 million per.
Braden Point just got a steal of a contract. I'm so shocked how Tampa Bay keep all of their players and still be under the cap. And this is why. First of all, there's no state tax in Florida, so you don't need to you don't need a $10 million average for a guy with Braden Point. He basically deserves it. And another great move by the GM. Point though, when his deal is up, he's gonna get way more than 6-7 million. And I'm just shocked that he got so little. We all thought that since Marner was getting 10 mil, Point would be in the same range. And like you said, I do think Point was the guy that set up the market and not Marner. So yeah.
Yeah. Here's the thing about a lot of people are always talking about the state tax, and some people have even suggested that Tampa should have a lower salary cap because of the benefits of the cap. The reason I disagree is there's benefits to playing in certain markets. If you play in Toronto, taxes are going to be way higher, but you're also going to get way more endorsements. And, if you play in San Jose, taxes are high. You're not going to get a ton of endorsements, but there are benefits. The weather's really nice. If you don't want to be famous, literally no one will know who you are. So there's benefits to each market, and I don't think the NHL should step in. So for Point, I honestly don't understand it. I know he wants to be on a cup contender and he's willing to take less, but this is just such a shocking underpayment. It's just not even funny. He's an elite player, and he took a really good deal for the team, and they have a great chance of winning the cup. We'll get into their cup chances during the predictions. So the next contract, and this really takes the cake because it's Matthew Tkachuk, the same term as Braden Point, but he got the full $7 million. So Matthew Tkachuk, who I think most people would agree Braden Point is a much better player than Matthew Tkachuk, got more money and the same term as Braden Point.
I just don't understand it. And I thought that Calgary would have to trade a guy like might go for a league to stay under the cap. Now, for Kachuk, he's still going to be an RFA when his deal is up. So he's going to command way more money because Kachuk is a great player. You know, he won't get that first line duty because Joe's there, but he's a fantastic player because I really want him to take him. And you know what? He just almost had a point per game year, and if he gets a 90-point season or even 80 points consistently, that average can go up, and I don't see how in the future the Flames can afford that. So, you know, great deal for Kachuk. I think the Flames overpaid. Well, I would say overpaid, but I think the Flames really need to worry about the future of the cap situation, even though the cap will go up slightly bit every year.
Yeah, and here's the thing about the Flames. I'm gonna get into this during my predictions. I think they're gonna be in for a little bit of a correction this year because I don't think they are as good as a lot of people think they are. So we'll see. This is gonna be a very interesting season for the Flames and for Kachuk. And obviously they're happy to have him back, and he'll be an important part of that team. All right, and finally, the final RFA deal we're going to be going over is the Patrick Laine contract signed today. That's why it's good we delayed this podcast so we could talk about it. 2 years, $675 million. What are your thoughts?
Laine had, of course, a down season, 50 points, 30 goals. I think the reason why this took so long is the Jets debating how much do we pay him, because he just had a terrible season, 50 points. That's not really a league play. That's just what a decent player would usually get. And Laine needs to have a big rebound because I like Patrick Laine. And I want his team to succeed. And I know he can do better than what he just did this past season. He had 20 game goals drought or something like that. So Laine obviously has the talent, and I do think that he does rebound, and the Jets don't need to pay for it in 2 years, and they still have to worry about Kyle Connor. So, the Jets aren't still looking that good. Getting back Laine sure does help, but I still look at that Ross and say, I don't think that's good enough.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with almost everything you said. So I think Kyle Connor, getting him re-signed is a big priority. Obviously, I would have liked to have waited for him to sign before we do the podcast, but we can't be waiting forever. And then also, the Laine contract, I would not have given Laine a long-term deal. It's too risky. And if I were Laine, I would not have wanted to take a long-term deal because he's not going to get as much as if he had been consistent. So I think these 2 years will be great. If he proves himself, the Jets will give him a big long-term extension with the money he deserves. And if he's a bust, then he still made a bit of money, and then the Jets didn't lock up a bunch of cap in a player who's a bust. So it's going to be, I think this contract will work out for both teams, for both sides, Laine and the Jets, and we'll see how it turns out this season. He's going to have a challenge because the Jets obviously were not happy with how last season ended after making the conference finals the year before. So they're going to have to really improve, especially in the playoffs. And everyone on that team will need to step up. And Laine, even though he's not getting paid as much as maybe he'd hoped, he's still a leader on that team.
Bold prediction.
Yeah.
I say 50 goals for Laine.
All right. Wow, that is a bold prediction. We'll see if it happens. He definitely, going into last season, people for sure would have thought he would score 50 goals. All right. So any others? Oh, yeah, one more signing we're going to talk about. This is not an RFA, but I said we'd get back to it. Jared Spurgeon, 29 years old, re-signs with the Minnesota Wild, $7,575 per year. And it's a 7-year deal. What are your thoughts?
I like Spurgeon. He's an Edmonton boy, but that's too much for a guy with Jared Spurgeon. 7.5. It's especially for a guy that's almost 30. So it's gonna take him to be 37. That's a terrible contract. And it's not he's a good defenseman, brings good offense skills, but 7.5. That's just questionable. Especially since the Wild are in a rebuild and they just signed Zuccarello for who knows for what reason. I don't get that move.
Yeah, well, here's why I'm less critical of that deal, because Erik Karlsson is the exact same age as Spurgeon, and if you know me, you know how much I criticize Erik Karlsson, and I think Spurgeon's a better player, I won't say offensively, because Karlsson is an elite playmaker. Still, he can really get a lot of assists, but Spurgeon is definitely better at scoring goals. I mean, Karlsson only had 3 last year, uh, and he's the same age, and I think better defensively. So I think the contract is bad, but I think compared to what a lot of other defensemen are getting, and Burns got an 8-year, $8 million per year deal in his 30s, I don't think it's terrible. So, yeah. All right, if that's it for contracts, unless there's any other you want to go over, I think we can get into predictions.
Yeah, I think we're ready for predictions.
All right, so how we'll do this is we're going to go from bottom to top in the division, and we'll go, you go a division, I go a division, you go, I go, and then we'll go to playoffs. And then if there's any other things that aren't division-related predictions for the season, like, for example, your Line will score 50 goals prediction, then feel free to mention it. So we'll start Pacific Division. What are your predictions?
Well, so first off, in 8th place, I have the Kings. 7th place, I have the Arizona Coyotes. In 6th place, I have my Edmonton Oilers. In 5th place, I have the Canucks. In 4th place, making it as a wildcard team, I have the Coyotes. In 3rd place, of course, making the playoffs, I have the San Jose Sharks. 2nd place, I have the Vegas Golden Knights. And in 1st place, I have the Calgary Flames.
All right. So you have Calgary finishing first. This is gonna here's I think my predictions. I think a lot of people are gonna disagree with them, but I really am gonna explain all of these. Do you want to explain any of your predictions? I forgot to ask you, but
I'll probably give some quick. I'll give like a quick rundown. I think LA and Anaheim really make sense. Both are old veteran teams that need to start rebuilding. Anaheim has started to do that while LA kind of really hasn't. So I think that makes sense. Edmonton, we're just bad. You have no stable goaltending. We actually do have a defensive issue now in the good way. We have too many young defensemen where we probably need to trade one pretty soon. And the wing depth is just awful in Edmonton. Thomas Yurko, who had a great game last night, by the way, might be our first line winger, just like Ty Riley was last year. So, I just can't see Edmonton making it. 5th place, it was hard between the Coyotes and the Canucks, and I was so close for putting the Canucks in, but I couldn't because I just don't trust the defense yet. Bergstrom is a good goalie, but I just need to see a bit more out of him. I think the forwards are really good in Vancouver. Adding guys like Burns and JT Miller, great moves by the Canucks. The Coyotes got Phil Kessel, added an underrated addition to Soderberg, almost made the playoffs last season when half the roster is basically injured for most of the year. They're getting Schmaltz back. I think they make it. I think the Sharks, the Knights, and the Flames all are locked. No arguments there. I just put the Flames in first because, I think that they have better. I think that Reg has proven that he can play pretty great. I think their defense is one of the best in the West, and their forwards, that top six is just nasty. So there's that.
All right, here's my predictions. This is gonna be, a lot of people are gonna disagree with them, but I'll explain each of them. So first, last place in the Pacific Division, I have Anaheim. Not really much of a surprise there. I mean, I think pretty much the only bright spot on that team is John Gibson. I guess, I mean, I wouldn't say the only bright spot. Sam Steele, I think he's going to be good. He had a great playoffs with San Diego, the AHL team. So, I mean, they've got a few bright spots, but I really don't see how they finish anywhere above last place. I mean, I'm going through it in my head. I just can't see that happening. So, I've got them finishing in last. Second to last, here's my first hot take of the day. I've got Vancouver. Now, I really don't buy the Canucks. I just don't. I think goaltending is super important. And Thatcher Demko, who everyone in Vancouver said is their future starter, I don't think he's good enough. I think Markstrom is making some strides, but I just don't think he's a good enough goalie. I also just sort of worry about their depth and their, bad contracts that they've signed. So I don't think that the Canucks are going to make the playoffs. Then I've got LA. The reason I got them above the Canucks is they do have talent. Drew Doughty is still a very good defenseman. Quick is still really good. Kopitar had a down year. He'll still be, he can still score. So I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I think they will improve from last year. Then I've got Edmonton. Now, Edmonton, a lot of people, I mean, you've trashed them a lot. I think they'll be better than last year, mostly just because it would be hard to be worse than last year. But I think Edmonton will finish above LA and Vancouver and Anaheim, but not make the playoffs this year. Second wild card, fourth place in the Pacific Division. I have Calgary. Now, a lot of people have them doing way better than that. The main reason I don't is I think a lot of their players did a lot better than I think they will. Lindholm had, I'm checking the stat right now, how many goals? 27 goals, I think, last year.
Yeah, something
27
like
goals.
He had like 85 points.
78 points, yeah, which was by far his biggest career total ever, which is really great for him. I think he has to regress somewhat. I don't think he's still young, so I think he's still going to be good, but I just think that I think he'll have a little bit of a correction, so he'll go down. And then also David Riddick. I mean, he had a 9.11 save percentage last year. I think he'll be good, but I don't think he's a starter in this league. He's a starter, but I don't think he's an elite goalie. So that's why I have them finishing where I do. Then I've got Arizona. I think the acquisition of Kessel is what's going to put them over the top and get them third place in the division. They were very injured last year and still made a playoff run. I think they have two really good goalies. I think Kemper, who had a breakout season last year, will end up winning the starting job. And Ranta, who was injured for a lot of last season, will probably be either the best backup in the league or he'll get traded. So I think Arizona is going to finish. Then I have San Jose. I think we're going to be a lot worse. The Sharks are going to be a lot worse than last year, mostly because we've lost just a bunch of our scoring. But I think Jones has to improve because it would be hard to be worse than last year. I think Carlson has to improve because it would be hard for him to be worse than last year defensively and goal scoring wise. He did very good with assists. So, I don't know. I think we'll do good, but I don't think this year is going to be as good as last year, and I'll get more into that later. And then winning the division and the conference, I have Vegas. They did get a little worse from last year losing players, but they're going to have a full season of Mark Stone, and I just think Vegas is going to go on a big run this year.
Okay.
All right.
I'm just gonna add a couple things here.
Yeah.
First off, this signing just happened. Not an RFA signing, but the Flames did sign Reeder to a 1-year deal. So I guess they're adding depth there. Secondly,
is the money?
San Jose, doesn't seem like every time near the end of the year they just crash and burn.
Yeah, hold on. We'll get to that in a second. How much money is the Reeder deal worth?
Two-way, $800K.
Okay, so very minor. Yeah, so here's the thing about the Sharks. It seems like early second half they're really hot, and then right before the playoffs they crash, and then in the playoffs they usually win the first round. But I don't know. I really think there's there's a big problem with the Sharks. Wilson has made some really good trades, but I don't think we should ever let him sign a contract. I mean, the Carlson deal is going to be one of the worst deals in NHL history by the time it is up. That I'm sure of. So, and the Jones deal is looking really bad right now, unless he can somehow figure out what's wrong. And of course, keeping Dell around makes absolutely no sense.
How much is Jones making?
I'll pull it up, but we signed him long term. Jones is making $5.75, but he's signed through 2023, 24. That's not a terrible amount of money, but compared to the way he played last year, it really is a terrible amount of money. He was not even close to average. And honestly, as much as it hurts to say, it might have been better if the Sharks had lost in Game 5 because his 59 save Game 6 performance saved his job. I mean, there's no way around it. That saved his job. So, anyway, that's the Pacific. What do you got for the Central?
So 7th place I have Minnesota. 6th place, okay, I should actually explain it. So, for Minnesota, I think they're going to be awful. It's a rebuilding year. I think they're going to trade out more veterans. I don't think Zucker's going to be here for much longer. Dubnyk doesn't look the same. He's getting older. It's just going to be a year in Minnesota of a full rebuild. No more mediocrity, full-on rebuild. And I do think Billy Guerin is going to do something about that. 6th place, I have the team that everyone is overrating, in my opinion, the Chicago Blackhawks. Yes, they did add a great goalie in Robin Lehner, but it was 1 year of Robin Lehner under a Barry Trotz defensive team. And, bringing back Andrew Shaw, I don't think, he's a great player, but, I don't know, there's something about the Hawks and bringing the band back together, and just never works out. I don't like the Cahoon trade at all. I think Cahoon was good in Chicago, and they got back Ole Mata, who looked terrible in Pittsburgh. The Hawks analytics say everything's bad about him. He's number 6, number 5 at best. I just think everyone is overrating the Hawks. I don't see them making it to a wild card. They might be close, but I don't see them being an 88, 87 point team. I see them being around the low 80s-ish. So, number 5, I have the Jets. I basically explained this in the Lanning signing. They lost, basically all their defensemen, Trouba, Myers, Sherrod. Their best defenseman is Josh Morrissey if Buffalo doesn't come back. They still don't have Kyle Connor signed, and they still lost forwards. Depth forwards like Brandon Tanev. It's going to be a hard year in Winnipeg, and Connor help, he needs to be better. Last year, I wouldn't say he was awful, but he wasn't great. He wasn't good. So, it's going to be a hard year for the Jets. I don't see them making it, sadly. Nashville, I have as a wildcard team. They added a big piece in Duchesne. Yeah, they got rid of Sudan, but I think I got Donkey Fabro. We'll hold steady for them. I'm worried about Pecorine. He is 36. He still had a good season last year. But it's just the age factor and how much can Pecorine even play longer. This is his first year in his new 2-year contract and worth $7 million. I just don't think. I think this is Rine's final year of actually being a capable goaltender that can put up like a 9-18 save percentage because the age factor and Massaro's still young and probably their future starter coming up. I just don't see how Rene is the starter by next season's time. And the forwards are great, but I'm not 100% sure if Duchesne's capable of just leading a team past the conference finals because I just don't see it. I just see Nashville being a wildcard team. The Blues are 3rd place. Of course, it made it before they got focused. Also, I don't think it really changed anything. Bennington, I think the biggest question mark is Bennington if he's going to have the same repeat season, and who knows if he can. So, I still think the Blues lose their third place. Just because they won the cup, that does mean I'm going to automatically make them have all my advantage. Because still get up on boards, great defense. Goaltending is a question for me, so there's that. Dallas, I have second. Dallas made many great additions this past off season. They added Joe Pavelski, who's going to be probably their second line center. And, that power play of Radulov, Sagan, Van Pavelski, that's just amazing. Corey Perry, 1 year, 1.5. He can still put up 15 goals, 30 points. And play with a guy like Pavelski, I think that's great for a guy like Corey Perry. And on defense, Heiskanen is a year older, Klingberg's a year older. And, adding Andrei Sekera, I feel like is very underrated because the last few seasons when he was in Edmonton had two major injuries. I wish we would have bought up Chris Russell instead. But I think Sekera is going to be great for Dallas. Maybe put up 20 points on the third pairing. 1.5 for 1 year for Sekera. I love that. In first place, winning the conference in the West, I have Colorado. Adding guys like Kadri, Burakovsky, Donskoy, just adding more depth to the forwards in general. Yes, you trade away but you're bringing up a card, so basically no loss. And if Grubauer can play the same way, the Avs are contenders for sure, in my opinion.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna disagree a lot on this division. So I'm just pulling up some lineups real quick because we're gonna disagree a lot here. So in last place, this is probably one of my hotter takes of the entire NHL season. In last place in this division, and before I want to say it, actually, I just want to preface, I think the Central is the best division in hockey. A lot of people are saying it's the Atlantic or it's the Metro. The Metro got a lot better this offseason. I still think the Central is by far the best division in hockey because I think the team that's last place in the Central could make the playoffs in the East and probably would be one of the better teams in the Pacific, and that misses though. But anyway, in last place I have Colorado. And the reason I just don't think they have enough depth. They did get more depth this offseason. But if you look at I'm trying to find the stat right now. Nazem Kadri. Last season, he had 44 points in 73 games. Alex Kerfoot, who they got rid of, had 42 points in 77 games. So even if Kadri improves from last year, it's not like they're getting that much of a better player than, Kerfoot. And they losing Barry on defense. Then in goal, Grubauer was really good last year, but he had only, I believe, 37 games played. Varlamov actually started more games. So I think he'll be good, but I think if he's a starter, he won't have as good of a year. And I think defensively, I think that's probably one of their weaker points. I still, so I don't know. It'll be an interesting year for the Avalanche. I just think they finished last in that division.
Well, just one thing on the Kadri thing. Kadri was playing third line minutes in Toronto, though.
Yes, for sure. So I think he will improve. But I'm trying to find daily face-off. I use that for Colorado for line combinations, dailyfaceoff.com. So Donskoy would be projected to be on their second or third line. On the Sharks, at the end of the season, he was barely playing, and I think he'll improve. I think he'll have a good year. I just don't think they're deep enough. Matt Nieto was ran out of San Jose, and he's managed to stick around. But I don't really think he's a great third liner. Matt Calvert played a lot last year. I mean, I don't know. I just don't think they're deep enough.
Yeah, I guess I can see that, but I don't really see them being worse than a team like Minnesota, though.
Yeah, well, we'll get to Minnesota in a bit. I have some interesting thoughts about them. Next is Chicago. I agree with you. I do think they're overrated. The only reason I put them above Colorado is I like that they went out and got Leonard, because Crawford, I don't really know what's going to happen with him. If he responds and Leonard's good, then they're in good shape. But Leonard had a great season last year, and I think they've got better in net. I think Kane, had a great season last year too. I just don't think they'll make the playoffs yet, but I do think they will eventually be cup contenders again while Kane and Taves are still on the team. I love DeBrincat, so who knows? I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year, but I think, I still think they'll be a decent team. Then, in third, I have Winnipeg, just barely missing the playoffs. Now, I went back and forth with Winnipeg and Calgary, who would miss the playoffs. I did go with Winnipeg missing the playoffs. I don't know. I just don't think they're going to make it this year. Line A, if he can rebound, then great. That's great for them. But it was really troubling for the Jets last season. That slump cannot happen if he's an elite star. Like I'm sure they think he is. And also, I just don't think they're. I don't think they're good enough on defense. I mean, Pionk was good last year, but he doesn't really have a huge history of being great on D. If Bufflin doesn't play, then that makes the Trouba loss that much worse. I mean, and for, in goal, Hellebuyck, if that's his defensive core, I just don't think he'll have enough help to play really at the level that he played at the past 2 years. So that's why I have them missing. Now, first wild card, making the playoffs, I have Minnesota. Now, I told you earlier, I had one team that a lot of people were saying last was going to make the playoffs. And, everyone is really hating on Minnesota for what they've done this offseason. And here's the thing. I agree. I think their offseason moves were bad for the team, a lot of them. And I think they're going in the wrong direction because they're not rebuilding. A lot of you saying they're rebuilding. If they were rebuilding, I think they'd be trading a lot of their better players. I don't think a rebuilding team would go out and get Zuccarello. So I think they're setting themselves up for a bad future because they're going to be screwed cap-wise. They're not going to be as good and young as they could have been. But that said, I do think they got better. Even though the Zuccarello contract, I don't think it's great. I don't think it's, I think it is I think it's too much term to give a guy like that. I'm trying to find his age, Zuccarello, but
I think it's 31.
Yes. So in his 30s, you don't want to give out, that big of a contract, right? But at the same time, they are going to be better this season with him. I mean, 32, and it's $6 million per year till 2023-24. I mean, that's a long contract for someone that age. But they will be better this year having him, even if he does regress. So that's why I think they're going to make the playoffs this year. I love their defense. Even though Suter's getting old and he's under contract for a long time, he's still good. Matt Dumba is really good. The Spurgeon's locked up. And Dubnyk, I still think, is one of the best goalies in the NHL. I don't think last season was as good as the year before, but I think he'll respond, and I think they're making the playoffs. Okay, next I have Dallas. Now, Dallas, I could have had them winning the division. It was really back and forth with the Central Division, but I do have them finishing here. I think they got a lot better. They went out and got Pavelski, which really sucks for a Sharks fan like me. I really wanted Pavelski to stay, but they got him, and they're going to be a lot better offensively. That power play will be lethal. Pavelski, I think, is the best deflector in the NHL. So their power play is going to be more lethal. And I think this year they're going to be gearing up for another playoff run like they did last year. They were one goal away from the conference finals. We'll see how it turns out. I do think defense, they're a little weak there. Heiskanen's going to be really elite. Klingberg, you could argue he is already elite. But, the fact that they still have Polak on the team shows that they need some more defensemen. And then Bishop is, of course, really good in net when he's healthy. And then next I got Nashville. Nashville, I had sort of similar questions to you about them, especially about Rene, because he's not always consistent. But that said, I think they were very smart to get rid of Subban, even though they didn't get a huge return, just to get his money off the books to bring in Duchesne. They needed a top scorer. They needed a player who could just put the puck in the net, and I think Duchesne is that player. Ryan Johansson is a really good playmaker, but he just wasn't putting pucks in the back of the net. He only had 14 goals. He had 50 assists. So it'll be interesting. Maybe they play them with each other. Is Duchesne a center? Yeah, Duchesne's a center, so I don't think they can play him with him. But maybe they move one to wing, or not. But I think I think it was still a good signing to get Duchesne, and I think they'll be a very good team. And then first place, I have the Blues. They pretty much didn't change at all. I mean, they brought in Folk, they lost Maroon, but they're very similar to the team that just won the Cup. And that's where I think a lot of people are still missing. I mean, these are still the Stanley Cup champions. They won it for a reason. They really embraced shutdown defense. When everyone else in the league was going speed, the Blues embraced, tough defensive hockey. And they took full advantage of the fact that referees do not call penalties in the playoffs. And the Blues pushed everything to the limit. Their game plan pretty much was target the Sharks players with injury histories, and it worked. I mean, so while I might not agree with that strategy, it did work for them, and that's why I have them winning their division.
Do you have any question marks about Bennington though?
I don't. I can understand why someone might, but honestly, I think he proved himself in the playoffs. And if things go catastrophically wrong, I mean, Allen was still a good goalie. I mean, he wasn't good last year, but he has history of being good. So I think Binnington will be fine. But if not, I think Allen is a solid option. All right, we'll go to the East. We'll start with the Atlantic. What's your standings for that?
All right, so I think eighth place I have Ottawa. I have them actually doing worse than last year because all of last year, well, for most of it, you saw Dzingel, Stone, and Duchesne. Now they lost all of them, and they didn't really add more key pieces, except for maybe Anisimov, you can argue, and Connor Brown that won't really help them that much. Chabot is a great defenseman. Kachuk is going to take off. You still have some young, great prospects like Formanton and Baverson, but I don't know how this team does better than last year. They hired DJ Smith as a coach, which I think is a good option. I think he's going to be a great coach for them, but I just don't see how they do better. And it's hard to see where the direction's going because I don't know how to say this. I felt like they were better off picking this past draft in 2018. No offense to Brady Kachuk, who I still think he's a great player and all, but I just think with how deep the 2019 draft was, it would have been better to pick someone from there. But goalies are still an issue. You have Craig Anderson and whoever the backup is. I forgot who their backup was
Anders
last
Nilsson.
Yeah, sorry, Anders Nilsson. I forgot he was on the Sens. So it's just going to be a tough year in Ottawa. And I just don't see how they're saying 2 to 3 years that they're going to be competing.
No way.
Yeah, there's no way. So, I get what the Warriors doing, trying to rebuild, but this doesn't look like it's going to take that, Dorian thinks that they're going to be competing by 2021. I think there's no way.
Yeah.
I think at least 2024-ish. But that's just me, so
I think
it's going to be a tough year.
If you're a Sens fan, I think you got to be patient. I think you're going to really need patience right here.
So 7th place, Detroit. They haven't really changed anything from last season either. They signed Nemeth, they signed Philpilla. That's really it. They're still a young team that's up and coming, led by Larkin. Steve should play this season. Goaltending still awful. Jimmy Howard, Bernier. So I think that really explains it. I don't think the wins get much better. 6.5 Sabres. Yes, they added Marcus Johansson, Colin Miller, Yoki Haru, which is a big add. They still got Brandon
VC.
Montour, who they added. Pardon?
VC.
Yeah, and Jimmy VC. And I do have them at 86 points, but I just think that the East is so tough this year. Especially that so many teams in the Atlantic, and the next two, it was hard for me. My next two teams in the Atlantic were hard for me to choose between them. But so many teams in the East just got better that I don't think they're going to make it, but they should. And, Skinner was great last season, and I just feel bad for Sabres fans because they actually look like a good team this season, but they aren't strong at the others now. So, Sabres fans, if you're lucky, you might get it, but I'm sorry. Fifth place, I have Montreal with 92 points, and I don't have them making it. Montreal was really close last season. They tried to get Aho, but that didn't work out. Carey Price is like 32 now. He can still play decently. Shea Weber, I felt like had a good season. Older young guys had a great season. I think Kotkaniemi will have a better year. But like I said with Buffalo, I just can't see how with a lot of these teams, East got just better and better. And Montreal didn't really do anything big off the top of my head. I'm trying to remember if they did something, but I'm not for sure. So I can't see Montreal making it, and I still think we need a number one center. Domi. I think they're playing Domi at center right now, which
I don't know if they
for the wing.
Tatar.
Drew,
I think they had
Duran,
Tatar at center.
Pardon?
I think didn't they have Tatar at center?
Did they?
Yeah, I'm looking. I think I remember him at center, and I think on Hockey Reference he's listed as a center.
Well, I don't know why you would play Tatar center at all. And Duran, I think Elliot Friedman on his new 31 Thoughts column put that teams are Montreal was shopping Duran. He just played 11 minutes the other night. Wasn't he supposed to be your number one center when you guys traded for him? Obviously they still have guys like Kaling who had a great first game, of course a hat trick. And I do think Kotkaniemi at some point his career will fill that hole. But right now, Phil Deneau as your number line center isn't great. He's better suited for a second, preferably third. But once again, I think that's going to be the biggest factor for Montreal. Fourth place, I think for me, this is a no-brainer. The Florida Panthers. They've just improved. There's so much this past season. Yes, they added Bobrovsky. I know he can be inconsistent, but he played the best hockey of his career after March with the Jacks. If he plays like that, I'm not gonna he doesn't have to play like that every night, but if he can play like that consistently, that'll be a step forward for the Panthers. Strawman is still a good defenseman. I think he's a bit overpaid, 5.5, but you're adding to that defensive core, Ekblad and Matheson. That already has Keith Yandel on it, which is pretty good as well. And you're adding a guy like Condon to your already pretty good workhorse with, Barkov, Huberto, Trocheck, Dadonov. There's someone Toronto just got 20 goals this past season. So I think the Panthers are in a great spot, and young guys should take a step forward. I really hope Borgstrom takes a step forward because I like what I see from his game, and I know he has been given the correct opportunities. I think he will be better. And adding guy Noah Charlie from Boston as a fourth line winger that has energy is great for a team. Florida is going to do damage this season, and I think they'll make the playoffs. So thirdly, I have Toronto. They're not going to be better than Tampa Bay, and like I said, I think Boston is in a great spot. Toronto, I will make an argument they probably got weaker on the force just because I don't think Kerfoot will be better as Scotch. Their sports are still pretty stacked. So Barry will help. actually would help. But like you said, it's the same team as last year, except Barry and you're swapping Kadri for Gerber basically. And I think they'll be pretty good. Just not as good as Boston and Tampa. Boston second. You know, they made it to Stanley Cup Finals. They still have good young pieces. Grass is still a great goalie. Best first line in hockey, you can say. Maybe the McKinnon line. Really depends who you ask. And good depth, Krejci, DeBrusk can fill good secondary roles. You know, just I like what Boston has as a team. I don't think I should explain for Tampa because I think that's pretty obvious.
All right, so here's my. Sorry, I'm having a cough right now, but here's my division. Very similar to yours, almost identical, in fact. So last place I have Ottawa. I'm not going to get into them. They're very bad. I guess I can. Some good thing I can say about them is I like Tkachuk. He's good. I don't know if the fourth overall pick will end up being better or worse than Tkachuk, and maybe they should have kept it. Maybe they shouldn't have. Who knows? But yeah. I mean, like you said, they're in a rebuild. I think Sens fans should be patient. I guess, it's nice for Duclair. I think Anthony Duclair sort of found a home there. So good for him, I guess. But there's really not a lot to be excited about this season if you're a Sens fan. But then I've got Detroit. Similar. I think they could be better. Larkin's still really good. He's just playing on a bad team. And I think Jimmy Howard I think he's still got some left. I think he can still be a good goalie. I would have loved it if the Sharks had traded for him, as they were sort of. I heard some rumors about that last year. So who knows? But I think they'll be a little bit better than Ottawa. Then I've got Montreal, and the reason I have them here is I think a lot of their players overperformed last year. Here's why. So last season, Domi led the team with 72 points. That was a career high, which makes sense. He's getting a career high. He's 24 right now. But I don't think he'll do that well. I think he will regress somewhat. I don't think he'll regress a ton, but I just don't think he can possibly match that. I think that's going to happen with a lot of their players. I think there will be some who improve. I think Victor Mete will score a goal. He had 0 goals last year. I think Ryan Poehling is a really exciting player. But I just don't think they're good enough defensively either, just to be good. Shea Weber, 33 points last year, but only 58 games played. Can he stay healthy? We'll have to find out. But I just don't think that the Habs are good enough to finish above the Sabres, let alone make the playoffs. And next, of course, I have Buffalo. I have them just missing the playoffs, which, that must really suck for their fans. But, I just don't think they're quite there yet. I think Eichel will cement himself as elite this season. He had 82 points last year. He's really well known for his booming shot, but, on those one-timers and stuff. But, he had 54 assists. He didn't even have 30 goals. So I think he could score 30 goals above that this year because he also missed 5 games last year. So who knows? Underrated Sam Reinhart. Sam Reinhart had more points than Skinner. So with 65. So I think he's sort of finally developing. Skinner, 40 goals last year. So we'll see if he can do it again. I don't think he'll score 40 again, but I do think he'll be another very good player, and it's good that they got him locked up. Dahlin, in his first season with the Sabres, had 44 points, and I think he'll be good. And then I think their main question mark is their goalie. What's going to happen to Carter Hutton? Finished the season with a .908 save percentage. At the beginning of the season, he was one of the best goalies in the NHL. At the end, he was one of the worst. What is he? So we're going to find out this season. I think that's really going to make or break the Sabres season. And whether or not they're going to make the playoffs, it's going to really be up to Carter Hutton. Oh, and one more thing. Tage Thompson. He was very hyped going into Buffalo. They got him in the O'Reilly trade. He was definitely disappointing last season. What's going to happen to him? All right. Now I have making the playoffs. I have the Florida Panthers. I have them finishing in the first wild card spot. It's pretty much playoffs or bust for the Panthers at this point. I mean, they have been, their rebuild has been going on for a long time. They've been trying to contend for a few years now, and I think they're finally going to do it. They've got Barkov had an unbelievable season last year. Huberdeau and Barkov had 96 and 92 points. I mean, those are superstar numbers, and no one talks about them because they're in Florida. Huberdeau is in his prime, 25. Barkov is still only 23. Mike Hoffman had another great season.
Oh yeah,
they are way deeper. They just had a lot of injuries last season. I think defense is a concern for them, and I think Aaron Ekblad, it's time for him to step up. I know it takes longer for defensemen to develop. He had 37 points last year. He was the first overall pick. It's time for him to play like it, and he needs to break out this season. And of course,
I remember they got. Sorry, keep going.
Sergei Bobrovsky. He is probably one of the biggest keys to the Panthers team. He was actually, a lot of people forget, he was really bad in the regular season with the Blue Jackets, and that playoff run pretty much saved him a ton of money in the offseason. So we will see what happens with them. I think they make the playoffs, and I'll get into how they do in the playoffs in just a bit. What was your question?
And remember, I forgot, first of all, I forgot they had Mike Hoffman. Secondly, I forgot to mention that they also have a great coach in Quenneville.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I forgot to mention that too. Yeah, Quenneville, I mean, he knows how to win, and I think if they can't win with him and this core, I don't know what they do. I guess fire the GM.
Yeah.
All right, then third place I have Toronto. The reason a lot of people say they're cup contenders this year. I completely disagree, but I do think they'll be fine in the regular season. I mean, they don't have I think it starts with Frederik Andersen. He's been overworked the past few years. I'll pull up his games played, but he's a good goalie, but he's not one of the goalies where you can play him, 70 games. He's just not that good. And their backup right now is looking like it's going to be Michael Hutchinson, meaning Frederik Andersen's going to have to play a ton. He played 60 games last season in the regular season, and his backups won a total of 10 out of 25 games that they appeared in. I mean, that's not good enough. It's just not. So we'll have to see how it goes for the Leafs for Andersen, but I just think they need someone in net who can rest him, and I just don't think Hutchinson's good enough. Now, of course, offensively, I mean, you can't say enough. A full season of Matthews is going to be unbelievable. And, here's something that's not based in fact or whatever. I think Matthews is going to have a fantastic year because of the off-ice drama surrounding him. If you're not familiar, it was recently, reported that he had, over the summer, been involved in, he'd been, I believe, arrested. I don't know if he was actually arrested or not, but charged with disorderly conduct back in Scottsdale. We won't get into it. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's sort of all over the news. But a lot of times players, when there's off-ice distractions, they focus a lot more on hockey. And I think a good example of this is Patrick Kane. After he had those false rape accusations, Patrick Kane came out and had, one of his best seasons ever. I believe he won the Hart Trophy that year.
He had over 100 points. It was unbelievable that year.
Yeah, so Patrick Kane had the false rape allegations, and so then he responded with one of his best seasons ever. I think similar thing could happen to Austin Matthews, and he's really going to break out. Now, here's something I mentioned before when the trade happened. I'll mention again. I don't understand getting Tyson Barrie. Now, I know they think they're cup contenders this year. I don't think they're cup contenders this year. So why get a defenseman who I don't think they can afford to re-sign? But I guess we'll find out what happens.
Just one thing on the Freddie Anderson thing. Edmonton did the same thing with Talbot. Played 2 straight years, 70 games. He's burnt out. This is going to be the third or fourth straight year that Anderson's going to play too much. If he gets burnt out, I'm telling you, Leafs are screwed.
Yeah.
Because if your goalie's burnt out and he doesn't play as well, you're not making the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. All right, here we go. Next, we've got Boston. And, yeah, I mean, they they haven't gotten any worse than the team that was 1 win away from a championship. And I don't know. I think the main question is when Rask was injured for them last season, Halak stepped up, but then Rask came back and was really good again. So how will Rask do? I think he's, one key to their season. He had a 912 save percentage last year, so we'll see what happens there. But I think there's not much to say about Boston. They're a really good team, and they're in their cup contending window right now. Let's see what happens. One thing is, I don't think they're very deep, and I think depth is going to be a big problem for them. David Back has had their 10th most points, and he only had 20. For comparison, Buffalo, their player with the 10th most points, Casey Middlestat, had 25, and Buffalo's a lot worse. So, I think they're going to benefit from a full season of Charlie Coyle. He was really good when he came over there, but in the playoffs. But yeah, I think Boston. I mean, you can't really say much about them. They're really good. I mean, it's nothing special. New special. And then, of course, first place in the conference and probably President's Trophy, Tampa. I mean, there's literally nothing to say about them except the playoff. I think that was a fluke. I think they're cup contenders. I think they'll be hungrier than ever. I mean, there's nothing else you could say. They're Tampa.
Yeah.
All right, Metropolitan Division.
So 8th place, I have Columbus. I feel bad. I feel bad for our Jackets. So they finally got the first playoff series win against Tampa, which was an entertaining series. Not just because Tampa was losing, but that was some fun hockey to watch. And Bobrovsky played outstanding. Now they have Corpus Sal and Elvis Merzlikins in net, who both goalies are untrustworthy to begin with. Merzlikins haven't played in North America yet to begin with, and Corpus Sal hasn't shown that he can become a full NHL starter. I like your defense. Zach Werenski and Steph Jones, a beautiful top pairing. In my opinion, one of the best top pairings in the league. Top 10 easily. And, forward, losing Artemi Panarin does hurt. Losing, I think they knew they're going to lose Duchesne to Zingle. But losing Panarin does hurt. Yeah, they added Nyquist, but that won't do much. Dubois should have a step up, but all the depth just got taken away. The only good thing about this team is the defense. Can Cam Atkinson score 30, 40 goals again? Well, Anderson had another great season because I think he had around 25 goals for gritty second, third line type of player. There's so many question marks. They lost basically a lot of depth. I just can't see how they're even in playoff contention, and that's how I say they're bottom of the division. Since I have the Islanders, I think last year might be a fluke year. I do think Barry Trotz is a great coach. I don't think Varlamov will solve the goaltending issue. Same thing. I don't think Lehner is going to have the same year in Chicago. But, I think Varlamov should get up their age, that 4-year contract. I don't like it. Grice, however you say it, is unproven. Their defense is a bit shaky. There's no top pair defensemen. All their defensemen are basically second pairing guys. Barzal needs to take a step forward again. Yes, he had a great first year in the NHL, but most of them were secondary assists. He needs to be better. But Billy, I feel like he needs to be better hosting. Everyone didn't have as strong of a year. And, they only had, a couple minor additions. A guy Brassard who I hate now because he's about to sign in Edmonton, but he went to the Islanders instead, which I hate. So I just don't think it's gonna be a good season in the Island anymore. At least on the bright side, we are getting a new arena, and you don't have to play in Brooklyn anymore, which is good for them. Number 6, the Philadelphia Flyers. They did add a couple guys. Justin Frost on the Sharks is one. I think that they're okay addition. Matt Niskanen and Kevin Hayes, the overpaid $7 million player for a second line center. That contract. Good player, but they're gonna be better than last season. Carter Hart should have a good season, but I just don't see them making the playoffs because of that. Fifth place, my hottest take of my predictions. I have the Pittsburgh Penguins missing the playoffs.
Wow.
And the reason why is, my reason was basically justified for my fourth place team, but I do not like that Kessel trade. I don't think Galchenyuk has shown anything in the anytime anywhere in the league to be a capable 60-point, 50-point scorer. I get that he was on the fourth line in Arizona, but I think he was there for a reason. Alex Galchenyuk is a shaky player, and you might just say, yeah, I'll put him to Malkin or Crosby, but I just don't think he's gonna have the same impact as Kessel did. I think their defense is terrible. Eric Branson for Tanner Pearson was an awful trade. And they still have that bad contract of Jack Johnson on the books. Matt Murray has not looked good since the 2017 playoffs. Every single year, I think his save percentage has been below .910. There's so many question marks. And, once again, you could say something like Barry Trotz Islanders did something, to shut out the Penguins. But let me tell you this, the Capitals had, 2017 and 2016 when the Penguins beat them, a way better team than the Islanders. But yet the Islanders somehow swept the Penguins and 4-0. That told me something. I don't think Sullivan is a good enough coach. I don't think they have enough depth to overcome what happened last year. I don't think their goaltending is solid. And besides Letang, who's getting up there in age, what other defensemen do they have? Justin Schultz was injured for all last year, and he didn't really look good in the playoffs. Dumoulin, who Pens fans overrate the hell out of, I don't know. I don't think he's that good. Cahoon's good. I don't think Galchenyuk replaces the production. And another thing, Brandon Tanev is getting paid $3.5 million to play in the bottom six, so he's a 30-point, 25-point getter. I don't get it. I still think the Penguins get 90 points, but I don't see them making the playoffs. And that's my bold prediction. And in fourth place, I have the New Jersey Devils. New Jersey added a great defenseman in PK Subban. They added Nikita Gusev, Wayne Simmons, and they added a lethal talent in Jack Hughes through the draft. If Corey Schneider can play decent, if Blackwood can play maybe at the back up to .910, I think the team can outscore their problems than what pucks score into the net. Because Subban, Severson, that's on your right side is strong. Ty Smith should be coming up this season. A healthy Taylor Hall. I think that the Devils are ready to get back to the playoffs this season. Like I said, goaltending might be a bit of an issue, but I think PK is a great add, and Gusev, Simmons, and Hughes just amazing for the forwards. Third place, I have the Rangers. Trouba, Kakko, and Panarin to a team that you could have said I feel like the Rangers underachieved because I don't think they're terrible. They still have key guys there, still like Zibanejad and Heidel, Kreider, Elias Anderson, Ryan Strome had a 20-goal pace in New York after getting traded for them to God, I still hate that trade. Georgiev has been a good backup goalie. He just got Shorshkin. over from the KHL. I think he's gonna play in Hartford this next season. I don't know. And I think Lundqvist, yeah, he's like 38 or something. I Lundqvist was decent last year. I think the defense behind him sucked, and I say the Rangers make the playoffs. Panarin's a huge ad. Taco is another huge ad, and Truba is the right hand shot defenseman if he needed. And you still have Brady Shea. Tony DeAngelo is a pretty good defenseman as well. Second, I have the Hurricane. This is basically a bit similar to Devils where I don't trust Mrazek just yet. But like I said in the bulk trade, their defense is fine. And over the offseason, they added 2 forwards in Hala and Zizingo. Martin Necas should be playing the full year, and he's supposed to be a elite prospect. They still have Aho, Niederreiter, Teravainen, and Jordan Salt, and Warren Fogle. The Canes look amazing this season. And I think first the Capitals. Their forwards are great. They added guys like Panic and Caro. I think they sent them Caro Hagelin to trade for him. Defense is still good. John Carlson is a good defenseman. I like Dmitry Orlov. Kempny is good. And, Holtby has 1 year left of his contract, which sucks because I don't think they'll be able to re-sign him because they also have Backstrom to re-sign. And I do think by that time, Samsonov should be ready. So I think the Capitals finish first in the division.
All right, wow, this might be the one we disagree the most on. Maybe the Central a little more, but yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. All right, last place, I have the Devils. Here's why. I think the main thing, you sort of brought it up, goaltending. I do not trust Blackwood farther than I can throw him, and I think everyone knows Corey Schneider. I mean, I don't really have to get into that. He got his. I mean, I don't know. Can he rebound? I don't think so. I think he's just. I don't know what happened with him, but he has just been bad and hasn't been his old self. Defense, I think I love what they did this offseason. I think getting Subban for what they gave up was fantastic. I think Will Butcher's a really underrated defenseman, but I just don't think they're deep enough. I mean, they've still got Andy Green on their team. I just don't think he's good enough. And then offensively, I also think they're very top heavy. I mean, Taylor Hall is elite. Heischer is good, and even though he might not have been the best player in that draft, I mean, there were a lot of really good players taken in that draft, I still think he's really good. Kyle Palmieri, very underrated and good. And getting Gusev and Hughes, that's going to be good. But I think that's where it ends. I mean, Wayne Simmons, when he got traded to Nashville, oh boy, it was ugly. It was really ugly. Wayne Simmons did not play well in Nashville. Maybe he just didn't fit in there. Who knows? But I just don't trust him for if I'm the Devils. So I think they have a problem with depth. So that's why I have them finishing where they do. And hopefully for them, they'll be able to extend Hall before he realizes how bad the team is. Maybe they'll do well. Who knows? But this is all about trying to get Taylor Hall to re-sign because he is still their best player, even though Hughes is going to be really good.
I hope they don't re-sign him.
I hope they do because I always like the Devils, and it's not like the Sharks can afford him anyway. So, then I've got Philadelphia. I don't really know what to make of them. I sort of was going back and forth. Carter Hart is going to be elite. I think a lot of people. He pretty much was their biggest bright spot last season. Again, I sort of wonder if they have enough depth. I don't think they do. A lot of people were saying the Braun trade was a bad trade. I completely disagree. I think they absolutely won that trade. Braun is one of the most underrated defensemen in the league. So I think they got better there. But again, I just don't think forward depth is enough. Now, the Kevin Hayes contract, I think that was a bad contract. But, I mean, he is still a good player. So, money aside, they did get better there. I just don't see – I think their main problem is the division's really good. I think they'd probably finish 5th or 4th in the Atlantic – well, not – okay, maybe 5th in the Atlantic Division. But because they're in the Metropolitan Division. I have them finishing 7th. Then I've got the Rangers. I think the Rangers are 1 year away from making the playoffs and really starting to make a run for it. I just think they're too young. I love what they did in the offseason. I mean, getting Panarin, that's huge. Trouba, but Lundqvist is still really good, and Georgiev is, I think, a goalie of the future. Adam Fox, going out and getting him. But I think they're a year away. I still think they're too young to really contend. Capo Caco, I think he'll have a good year. He could win Rookie of the Year because I think he's more NHL ready right now than Hughes. I'm gonna go off on a little tangent here. I'm sick of people saying Hughes is better than Caco. I mean, you don't know more than the top NHL scouts, and pretty much they all agreed Hughes was better. But I mean, Caco is still really good, and I think they'll be a good team. I just don't see them making the playoffs. Next, I've got Columbus. Now, a lot of people, I think you had them finishing last. And they lost a ton of players. The reason I don't have them finishing last is out of the players in their top 10 on points, only Panarin, who've had the most, is gone. I mean, they still have a lot of good players. Atkinson had 69 points last year. He's just a really nice player. Pierre-Luc Dubois is developing well. And I think Seth Jones I think he has a really good chance of winning the Norris this year. I think the Blue Jackets' main problem is going to be goaltending. I don't think Korpisalo is good enough, and I don't think they got a good enough player. They signed Nyquist from the Sharks. I think they had to sign someone after all those players they lost. But I'm going to actually do a specific mini show about the Blue Jackets. I'm seeing a lot of people make videos about why they think going all in was a good idea. I think that was one of the worst ideas ever. I mean, they sacrificed their future for winning one round. So I don't like that they did that, but I still think they've got a decent team. Next, I've got Carolina. I have them as the second wild card making the playoffs. Carolina, I don't think they'll be fantastic. They had a great playoff run, and everyone fell in love with the bunch of jerks, and they're so fun because finally they're good. But I just don't think they're really ready to take the next step and make it to the Cup final. I don't even think they'll make it past the first round. And, I just think that I love that they got Aho on that deal, the offer sheet. That worked out great for him. But, I mean, the Justin Falk trade, they got worse. I don't think Edmondson or Bach are better this season than Falk. Even if they're better in the long run, I think this season they're not going to be as good as they were last year. I still think they'll be decent. Then I've got the Islanders. So here's another one where we ended up disagreeing. Here's the reason I think the Islanders are going to be good. Barry Trotz completely ran a clinic on the Penguins last season of defense first. He shut them down. And the reason I think they're going to have such a good year is while Leonard had a great season last year and it was very impressive, I credit the coach and his system more with Leonard's success than Leonard himself. And the reason I do that is Thomas Greiss. Thomas Greiss had a .927 save percentage in 43 games and a 2.28 goals allowed average. And the year before, he had an 8.92. So he had a huge and a goals allowed average of 3.82. So how does Greiss suddenly go from not very good to extremely good? Well, I think the year before last, 2016-17 had a good year, so I think 2017-18 it was a down year. But I think it's Barry Trotz's defensive system is a big reason why they did so good. And so I think because of that, they're going to do well again. I think Varlamov is not as good as Leonard, but he'll be put in a system where he can succeed. So I think they finished third. Then I've got Pittsburgh. All your reasons for them missing the playoffs make sense, but I just don't think it happens. I think if you put Galchenyuk with Malkin or Crosby, I think he has to succeed. I still think he's not living up to what he should have been as a third overall pick, but I still think he'll be good. And Matt Murray did end the last season 919 save percentage is what I'm seeing for last season. So I still think they're going to finish second in the conference. I still think they'll be good. And winning the division, second division, and then winning the division of Washington. Yeah, again, not much to say about them. I think they'll be cup contenders this year. I think they're going to be fueled by their first round exit last year. So we'll see what happens there. Do you have your playoff predictions?
Yes. So.
So we're not gonna do reasons because this is getting to be a pretty long show. So we'll just read out our playoff predictions.
Oh, sorry. I already have my sound time.
That's fine. That's fine. Just what do you have for that?
I'm pretty sure not a lot of people have seen it, but I have in the East, the Washington Capitals making it out, and in the West, Danny disagrees with me here, but I have the San Jose Sharks.
I hope you're right. I really hope you're right.
Well, I'll just give a quick rundown. I know the Sharks lost a bit, but I still see them competing. All their core is just 1 year older. Timo Meyer's going to have a bigger step up. I feel like, LeBlanc is going to have a bigger season. I think Eric Carlson should be better, and I really hope Martin Jones gets his game together. And this team was close to making it to the finals. St. Louis ran you guys down and all the injuries. If you guys stayed healthy, who would have known what happened that series? I think Washington, in my opinion, will probably beat up Tampa in the conference finals again. Just because I just think Tampa doesn't play well, under pressure. It's been happening for the last couple years now. And I do think Washington's a better team. Ovechkin wants to go after another cup run. But in the end, I do have San Jose winning a cup, so Thornton finally retires as Stanley Cup champion.
Again, I certainly hope you're right. I don't see it happening. So I have all the series written down. I'm just going to get through them really quickly. So I have Vegas beating Dallas in round 1 in 5 games. I have Sharks beating Arizona hold on, I actually made these. I adjusted the standings actually a little bit since then. So I guess I'll just do my conference finals because I had adjusted the standings so that actually changes who they're playing. So conference final, I have Vegas beating San Jose in 5, and I have or no, that's second round. Sorry, I'm mixed up because I changed my seeding a little. So conference final, I have Vegas beating St. Louis in 6. In the East, I have Tampa beating Washington in 7, and then in the final, I have Tampa beating Vegas in 6. So I guess I'll just talk about the teams I had in my final 4. I think St. Louis is going to be really good in the playoffs, but I think Vegas will get to them. I think Vegas can play a big physical style, but they can also play with speed, which when the Sharks played Vegas, the Sharks tried to play St. Louis's game, and it just didn't work. Unlike in Game 1 where the Sharks played a really fast game and they dominated. I think that's what Vegas will do, and that's why I think they'll beat St. Louis. Then Tampa, Washington, I think that's going to be a great series, another 7-game series between those two. I just have Tampa coming out on top. I think after that playoff exit, Tampa will just be on a mission, and then I think they will win the cup.
All right.
So,
if there's no any last minute news, because that does happen sometimes. I think we're done here.
Yeah, I think we are. So we are just approaching 1 hour and 34 minutes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm really excited for the start of the season. It's starting October 4th, right? Or is it 2nd?
2nd.
October 2nd. So this is a really exciting time for being a sports fan. I'm not even going to be watching the Sharks, actually. That's the craziest part. I'm not even going to be watching the Sharks opening night. And normally I would, but the thing is the A's are almost definitely going to play in the wild card game on that exact day. So, normally I would watch the Sharks. I do like hockey more than baseball, but because it's playoffs, I gotta watch the A's. But after the playoffs are done, the A's are out, which will probably be pretty quick. Then it's full on hockey. We're gonna be doing more shows whenever we can throughout the season. I'll be posting more on my page. Links to Shaedon's channel and Instagram will be in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.